I got abandoned at 14 with $25,000 debt in my grandma's office. 10 years later, my mom begged me to bail out my alcoholic father. I went to court, took custody, and brought my little sister home. Before that, nights were routine. Raised voices, a slammed cupboard, my mother saying, "Go to your room, my prince." I stood in the hallway anyway. I was waiting for it to stop. By 10, I understood what I was watching. By 14, I understood it wouldn't change. 2 months after my 14th birthday, my mother and I moved into Grandma's old unit. It was the only way to stop this violence against my mother. The place was small. 1 bedroom, linoleum lifting at the edge, a radiator that hissed. The super had taped a notice to the door. "Arrears," my mother said. "Building fees, water, penalties, $24,783.64. "Don't worry, now everything will be different," she added. The next afternoon, she left to sort paperwork and never came back. I had $3, a bus card with 2 rides, an old laptop, and the office unit's key on a shoelace. I wasn't locked out, but I didn't want to be inside either. I sat in the stairwell where the light stayed on. I ate a roll I'd bought that morning, read the notice once again, and underlined the office number in my notebook. Arrears meant no repairs. Arrears meant no one would come if the window stuck again. It didn't hurt me on paper, but it followed me home every day I used that lock. At midnight, I looped a shoelace through the latch and the handle. I wedged a chair under the knob. I set the key on the table so I wouldn't lose it and slept in my clothes. Morning plan was simple. Bakery at 7, return to the office at 9, ask about heat, late fees, and payment plans. Use my grandmother's name. Don't mention I'm 14. And high school started. Unfortunately, I began it by borrowing $2 from my classmate for a roll in tea. He said, "It's on me." Don't worry. After school, I signed up for a bike delivery app under my father's name. $2.50 per drop. Peak pay $3.25. I could do 4 or 5 before homework. First night totals: $11.75 and a bruised heel. 2 months of high school had passed. As always, after the delivery shift, I was heading back to the office. I came home, opened my laptop, started doing my homework, and on a website banner ad pushed a $20 start an online store course down from $99. I bought it. The lessons were basic. List clean photos, answer messages fast, price to move. I made my own website based on guidance, posted to local groups, sold 2 metal chairs from the office for $18 each, pickup only. My second lucky flip was a denim jacket from a thrift bin. $3 in, $15 out. I became even more picky about money. I already had to save a lot to pay off the debt and feed myself, but after a few successful sales, even more. I paid the office arrears in chunks. Luckily, it took only 3 years. The final receipt slid across the counter. I folded it into my notebook. Then I started with general repair. I changed the lock myself, painted the walls, fixed the window seal, and turned the back half into shelves for inventory. The key on the shoelace stayed. More habit than need. Work scaled because I gained more knowledge and experience. I bought clean lots only, listed bundles, and stuck to local pickup. I rented a small truck on weekends, then a better one by the month. By 20, I bought my first used box truck. 2 more followed the next year. I hired 2 part-timers for loading and a bookkeeper for taxes. The office felt less like a past and more like a hub. The 5-year reunion was at a luxury restaurant with a terrace. Inside, classmates traded easy stories, Spain trips, family jobs, promotions queued up. The atmosphere was lively, but somehow I couldn't find my place here. It wasn't envy, it was emptiness. I stepped onto the terrace for air. A server passed with a tray, paused at the rail, and seemed to catch a breath. I said, "Busy?" She said, "Since 13. I said, "Rough?" She said, "It's fine." And silence went back. She set the tray down and looked at the city like it belonged to other people. We spoke again when she cleared my table. Just names, and she asked, "What do I do for a living?" I said, "Resale." "Logistics." She nodded like that made sense. She added then, and I'm stacking shifts. Saving for something that takes time, she didn't explain. I didn't press. A week later, I came across the same restaurant on a pickup route. She handed me 2 cartons at the back door. "You again," she said. "Yeah," I said. She asked, "You still working nights?" I said, "Most." She said, "Me too." We exchanged numbers but with no promises. It took months to get to know each other better. Coffee after late shifts, 1-hour dates because of our tight schedules, and rarely cinema on Fridays. On one of our dates, she was kinda upset. Her lease ended, and she had been looking for new apartments for a while. I suggested, as a joke, my office. However, she took it seriously, and she was as happy as a 4-year-old child who had been given the toy she wanted. Of course, I welcomed her with all my warmth. We cleared the front room and built shelves higher. Bed by the window, desk against the wall. She brought 1 plant and a box of bowls. As the days passed, we grew closer. We started making plans, and a year and a half later, I bought an apartment for us, and she also had gotten the money for her secret goal. It turned out to be money for college. Of course, I paid for all her tuition and told her to spend the money she had saved on herself. But she used every last cent on furnishing the apartment, our apartment. Another year passed and we got married. Although it wasn't too fancy, we will never forget March 15th, 2024. 2 weeks after our wedding, someone called, and I, without even thinking, picked it up immediately. Calm voice, with long pauses. It was a female in her mid-40s. "Hello, do you have a moment?" she said. "Who is this?" I asked. "It's me, your mother, my prince." I felt a flush of heat. I knew it was bound to happen sooner or later, but I certainly didn't expect to receive a call from her now. My wife grabbed my hand, she calmed me down, and I went, "How have you been? Do you need help?" She replied, "Let's meet tomorrow. I will tell you about your 3-year-old sister." At the cafe, she looked tired but steady. Our long-awaited conversation started immediately. "I left your father to keep you safe," she said. "I thought the office would be your personal castle, my prince." "Your castle, but not mine." She sipped some water, took a deep breath, and continued. "Right now, I am in a tough position. Eventually, I couldn't leave your father and I wouldn't be able to live with you in this shabby office. But look at you now, all grown with a beautiful girl beside you." "Wife," I corrected her. "Congratulations," she said, and continued trying to flatter me before the main reason why she called me. "I need money to pay your father's debts. He started to drink again and your sister can go through what you had to go through. Domestic violence," she meant. "So please give me $10,000 and we could start again. Me, your father, my daughter, and you." I called the waiter, paid the bill, and without a word left the restaurant. I called CPS that afternoon and reported what I knew. Names, address, risks, and sent them a recording of our conversation with my mother. "You may be asked to take kinship placement," the caseworker said. I said no problem. That night, CPS visited my mother's place. The stepfather refused to test. The apartment was unstable. Temporary guardianship was granted to me the next morning, and it was only a matter of time before I could get a full guardianship. Finally, I took my sister to our home, and my parents were forbidden to come within a kilometer of my sister. My story ends with this evening. At home, my sister tapped the old office key hanging by the door and asked, "What's that for?" I said, "It used to open hard days." She said, "Can it stay?" I kept the key and changed what it opens. Did I do everything right? Thanks for listening until the end. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and leave your thoughts in the comments.